Well, she did the best job she could, so, you know, ain't really nothing I can do but keep it moving.
It was very upsetting. I didn't get married.
They should have gotten on the plane, and everything would have been fine.
She got issues and problems that she needs to seek counseling about.
They just wanted money. They got what they wanted, so, you know, keep it moving.
The drunk ain't worth a piece of gum on the bottom of my shoe.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Acree versus Jones. Step forward, please.
28-year-old Karen Acree is suing her ex-boyfriend, Donald Jones, for rent and utility bills. Donald is countersuing for rent, lost wages, and a loan to get her stereo out of pawn.
Miss Acree, according to your complaint, you and Mr. Jones lived together for a period of time in a lease that you both signed.
That is correct.
There was a problem with an altercation that the two of you had. He was put out of the apartment. You claim he owes you some bills, some rent and utilities. Mr. Jones says that he paid up while he was living there. Once he was put out of the apartment, he has no intention of paying for rent and utilities. And he claims that you actually owe him money for some loans and assorted stuff. So he has a counterclaim. When did you move in together?
In July of 2004.
What was the rent on the apartment?
$650.
Who moved in?
Both of us did.
Anybody else?
My daughter.
So the three of you moved in?
Yes, she's 5 years old.
You get child support for her?
Barely, but yes.
What was the financial arrangements you had with Mr. Jones?
He signed the lease as well, and he would be paying half of the rent.
Was that your arrangement, Mr. Jones?
Correct.
Where were you working at the time, Miss Acree?
I was in and out of jobs. I was working through temp agencies.
So you weren't working steadily?
No.
And what about you, Mr. Jones?
I worked for a county road and bridge department, 10, 12-hour days.
Steadily?
Yes.
How much were you earning, Mr. Jones?
$1,200 a month.
And how did you put your money into the rent?
Every 2 weeks I cashed my check, and since she was home during the day, she would take care of the bills. I'd just give her money.
Is that right?
That is not correct, Your Honor.
Well, tell me how you were paying your bills if you weren't working full-time.
I was paying it through TANF, which is Temporary Aid for Families in Need, and that's what I get each month. And then
You get
I would
welfare?
get, yes.
Well, that's an easier term. Let me ask you this question, Miss Acree. Why in the world would I award you any money from Mr. Jones when the state was paying your rent?
Because he did not pay his share like he was supposed to.
That's not correct.
Okay. What happened in October?
October, he got physically violent with me, threw a cell phone at me, bruised me. I had to call 911 because this happened in front of my child.
So that was in October?
Yes.
October what?
October 10th.
You filed for protective order?
Yes.
What happened with that protective order?
That got dropped.
By whom? What do you mean
By
got
me.
dropped? You dropped it?
Yes.
Why?
Because of the fact that after he had been in jail, he had to go to domestic violence classes, and we went to court and everything. I figured everything was okay.
Did you let him back into the house?
I told him he could come back into the house, yes.
Did he come back into
Yes.
the house? When?
In December.
For how long?
Until I got evicted in February.
Did you stay with her in January and February?
No, I didn't. I moved out of our apartment on the 10th to my parents' house. And
10th of October?
Correct.
Were you put out by the police, Mr. Jones?
I was arrested there at the apartment.
How long did you stay in jail in October?
2 days.
Did you move back with Miss Acree?
No, ma'am.
You did not?
No, I live with my parents. And in November, she contacted my parents' church trying to borrow money to pay her rent, in which case my dad was contacted by the church because my name was on the lease as well.
And you asked for some money?
From a church, yes, I did.
Why?
Because of the fact I did not have enough money to pay the whole
Why did you
rent.
get a job?
I did get a job.
Well, if you had a job and you're getting welfare and you're getting some child support, what did you have to ask for charity for?
Because at the time I did not have a steady job, but I did.
So you didn't
after
have a
that.
job. Where are you working now?
Now I'm working at a gas station 40 hours a week.
When did you start this job?
A month ago.
And the previous job?
I had for a couple months until he got me fired from it.
Miss Acree, how long had you been receiving welfare to pay your rent?
For about a year.
Before you met him?
Yes.
So it wasn't because of him that you were in this
No.
financial position?
No, I was in school.
School to learn what?
Accounting.
And?
And I have a degree.
You have a degree in accounting and you're working at a gas station.
Yeah, I
Something
know.
doesn't balance out here, Miss Acree. Why don't you get a job with H&R Block instead of getting a job at a gas station?
Because I'd rather not work at H&R Block, but that's...
You'd rather work at a gas station. So what did you go to school for accounting for?
Because I wanted a degree.
Okay, let me hear about your counterclaim.
Okay, first off, not only did I pay her bills and her rent, she had a car payment that I was helping her out with, cell phone bills also. She worked for a month and a half through the 6 months we were together at that apartment. She also asked me for a loan of $150 to get a car stereo out of the pawn shop.
Which
so I
is
gave
not
her,
true.
So I gave her the $150.
When did you do that?
Do you have the month on that?
No, don't ask her.
I don't know. I don't have that.
Your Honor, I have the proof right here that it was not $150 and he went with me to the pawn shop. It was $54.
What month?
In March.
March of what year?
This year, 2005.
What were you doing going to the pawn shop with him in March to get your stereo out of Hock?
I got it out this year because of the fact that I had to put it in there to make the rest of a car payment.
What I don't understand is if you're not together with him, why do you call him to help you get something out of a pawn shop?
He was calling me, actually, and he asked me, he told me he didn't want me to lose it. And I said, okay, well, it's $54 to get it out. And he said, okay, let's go get it out.
How did you come to go with her to the pawn shop in March?
I didn't go through the pawn shop. She asked me to borrow money, as she has multiple times.
Then you shouldn't lend her money, Mr. Jones.
I'm a slow learner on that one, I guess.
Miss Acree, I don't believe he owes you a dime for rent. I believe that he worked. You did not. I believe that he contributed to the household. You did not. Now, if you had had a job all that
But
time...
I did. I worked at Kodak, and I worked...
Show me proof that you worked anywhere. Show me proof. You're not entitled to any money, Miss Acree. And Mr. Jones, have you learned your lesson?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. Goodbye. Your counterclaim's dismissed.
Parties are excused and they step out. Now, this is case number 182 on the calendar, the matter of Weaver versus Cooley. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Young ladies, have seats, please.
Oh, my goodness. Do you really want to be here?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. and Mrs. Weaver, this is your complaint. Your daughter and the defendant's daughter are friends, and you were taking a trip to Hawaii. According to your complaint, you invited Mr. Cooley's daughter to accompany your family on the trip. And the arrangement was that if she were going to go with you, her mother and father, who are divorced, were going to split the cost of her basic trip.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that right?
That's correct.
Yes, Your Honor.
And it is your claim that Mr. Cooley, who was her father, did not pay for his half of her trip.
Yes.
Mr. Cooley said that he never had a contract with you, right?
That's correct.
That he was sort of presented with a fait accompli, that he fell on some hard financial times, otherwise he certainly would have wanted his daughter to have this experience, which she, by the way, did have. She did go with you. His defense is that he never had a contract with you. When were you planning this trip?
February of 2004 is when we first contacted them about planning the trip.
When you say them, who did you contact?
I contacted Brittany's mother because Brittany lives with her mom, and we discussed the option of her being able to go with us.
And what was the arrangement that you made with her mother?
I told her mother that we'd be happy for Brittany to accompany us because she was our daughter's best friend, and that if she would pay for just the airline flight and then the expenses of the activities such as the snorkeling and et cetera that we did there, okay, and that we would be glad to pay for all of her food and then any of the other miscellaneous expenses. And then her mother said that she would have to contact Brittany's father to see if he'd pay for half and let us know. Then she called us and said that she'd spoke with her ex-husband, and he agreed.
Did you speak with him?
We spoke with him 30 days before the trip. He came over to our house. Not that day, not that time.
When did you go on the trip?
December.
So practically a year later.
Correct.
And it wasn't until November that you say that you contacted Mr. Cooley. Is that right?
Yes, because we were unable to get a hold of him.
Had you purchased the tickets already?
Yes, ma'am.
So you purchased the non-refundable tickets based upon the conversation you had with Brittany's mother.
Correct.
Now, you understand that up until this time you had no contract with Mr. Cooley. Do you understand that?
No, ma'am.
Well, I'm going to try to explain it to you.
Okay.
What you did was you had, at best, a contract with Brittany's mother to pay for half the cost of the trip. Brittany's mother cannot obligate Brittany's father to pay for the other half. She can't say he's going to pay for the other half and in any way obligate him. Do you have a sibling?
Yes, ma'am.
Brother or sister?
I have two sisters and a brother.
Okay, let's take the brother. He's easy. What's his name?
Michael.
All right, let's say Michael wanted to have his family room redone. So he went to a contractor, and the contractor said it's going to cost $10,000 to redo your family room. And Michael said, that's fine. I'm going to pay for half, and my sister promised me that she would pay for the other half as a birthday present. So you go ahead and you do this renovation for $10,000. Michael gives him $5,000, and he says, go get the other $5,000 from my sister. What's your first name?
Susan.
Susan. Goes to Susan. Susan says, listen, I told him if I could, one day I would like to make a present of $5,000, but I never agreed to pay you $5,000. I didn't have a contract with you. You want your money, go to Michael. Now do you understand?
I understand that, ma'am, yes.
He may have agreed to something, but up until November, I just want you to understand you had no contract with him.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
So tell me what happened in November.
Well, my husband spoke with him. I don't know if you want to talk to him as far as
I sure
that.
do.
Okay.
He's the only one I can speak to if he
Okay.
spoke to him.
I talked to Mr. Cooley about the expenses that we had occurred already, purchasing the non-refundable tickets, and that she would need $300 to $400 to pay for the incidental expenses that she would occur as far as the snorkeling, the luau, and that kind of stuff that she would need over there. And he agreed at that time that...
What did he say? Not he agreed. What did he say?
He said that the trip sounded good, that it was a one-in-a-lifetime trip for her, that it was something that they had never, ever planned for her to do, and that he would pay his half.
He said he would pay his half.
His half.
And are those the words he used?
To the best of my recollection, yes, Your Honor.
Did he give you any money?
No, ma'am.
So when was he supposed to pay you?
He indicated that he had had some problems health-wise, and at the time he was unable to give us any money. And we told him when he got back on his feet, whenever he could pay us monthly payments or whatever have you. But basically, he had us over a barrel. We had to take Brittany. We weren't going to disappoint her and not take her.
Now it's your turn.
Well, first of all, I didn't go to their house at all. My conversation with Mr. Weaver was over the phone, and that was only because in August I went on disability, and I was informing him that I was not going to be able to pay, and he had said, quote unquote, well, give me what you can, and if you can't give me anything, then that's fine, your daughter's going to go anyway. So I mentioned to my daughter that I wasn't going to be able to pay for her trip, and she was going to have to ask her mother to pay for it in its entirety.
Okay. Something that you said to me, Mr. Cooley, however, has an interesting ring to it. You said that you called the Weavers because your financial circumstances changed. You wanted to let them know that you could no longer pay your half. Is that right?
That's true.
Well, that suggests to me, sir, that you had originally told your ex-wife that you would pay for half when she originally called you in February of 2004. Are you following what I'm saying
Yes,
to
ma'am.
you? Am I correct, Mr. Cooley, that you originally told your ex-wife that you would pay for half of the expenses?
That is correct. But in February of 2004, I was under the impression that I was only going to help her out on her airfare.
Fine. Let's say that's what you were told, that you were going to pay for half the airfare. Not help her out, half, because the words that you used to me were half, right?
Right.
Now, the airfare was how much?
The exact price was $729.43.
So is what you're telling me now, Mr. Cooley, that what your understanding was that you were going to pay for half the airfare, and that's what you agreed to with your former wife? Don't think of what I'm going to say after that, Mr. Cooley. Believe me, you're never going to be able to leapfrog over my mind.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You're dealing with children. She could just as easily go to her father and say, listen, I want to go on this trip. It's $200 to go. It turns out that it's $2,000. What am I going to do, put her in jail?
And later today,
You claim that he made over $2,000 in sex calls, probably many of whom are guys talking and making out that they're women.
her best friend, Mark Cooley, owes for a Hawaiian vacation.
Now, is that what you agreed to with your former wife, to pay for half the airfare?
Right. Well, to be honest with you, my correspondence with my wife, because we don't speak, has been through my daughter.
Is that what you promised your daughter?
Correct.
And your daughter, I assume, conveyed that to her mother.
Yeah.
Brittany, what did you tell your mother?
Well, I told my mom that I was going on the trip and how much it was.
How much did you tell her it was?
I told her that
As far as what I knew, it was $350 that she was supposed to pay.
And you told your father the same thing?
That he was supposed to pay $350 also.
And he agreed to that?
Yes.
Good. Now you can sit down. Okay, Mr. Cooley, let us assume everything that you say is correct, that you were going to pay for half the airfare. Why didn't you pay him?
Well, in August, I went on disability, and so my whole financial situation changed.
You already said that to me. But at this point, they had non-refundable tickets, and one way or another, your daughter was going to go. Did you ever think, sir, of saying, I have to send the Weavers $50 a month because I agreed to do that? They took my daughter on a trip. I had a contract with them to pay them half, according to you. Not according to them, but according to you. Half the airfare for your daughter.
When I gave them the $150, there was somewhat of an agreement that I could pay monthly.
When did you give them $150?
I gave them $150 upon them coming back from their trip.
Give me the date. You have the date?
It was January 6th, Your Honor.
And you cashed that check?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. So that's January, February, March, April, May, June, July, 6 months later. And you haven't given them any money since?
Well, in April, the tides had turned because they kind of sent me a threatening letter, or at least I thought it was threatening, informing me that we don't want any ill feelings toward you or your wife. This could affect our daughter and your daughter's friendship.
They're absolutely right. It's a very good reason for you to send a check and say, I'm sorry, I told you that finances were really tight. I realize that this is my obligation. Here's $50. Here's $30. Here is something to demonstrate that I recognize that this is my obligation. You have a letter like that?
No, I don't, Your Honor.
Well, it's the wrong thing. You did the wrong thing, sir. Mr. and Mrs. Weaver, the only contract that I can ascribe to Mr. Cooley is for half of the airfare. And I say that because that's what his daughter says that she told her mother, and she told him. So, unfortunately, what?
We sent Mr. Cooley 3 letters advising him that he still owed us money. He sent us a letter back. And in that letter, he said that it's not verbatim.
Show me the letter.
You got it, ma'am.
If what you're saying to me is he acknowledges anything more than
Yes,
the
Your Honor, it does.
airfare.
The letter's several pages long, Your Honor. The first page shows that he agreed to pay half.
Well, let
but
me
it just
see.
says to pay half of Brittany's expenses.
I believe.
The whole letter.
Uh-huh.
And, Your Honor, if I may just say one more thing. Brittany's mom paid us the $550.
I don't care
that
what
she
she
owed
did.
us, so she knew that half of it was $550.
Listen
if I
to
just
me.
might say that.
You cannot ascribe anything to him that Brittany's mother knew.
Okay, I won't say anything else
Nothing.
about that.
If you want to have a contract with somebody, you have to talk to them face to face, or you have to speak to them personally over the phone, and then memorialize it in a written document that is signed. And then it's a contract that you have between 2 people. If you're dealing with children, she could just as easily go to her father and say, listen, I want to be able to go on this trip. It's $200 to go. Will you pay for $200? And he says, sure, I'll pay for $200. And it turns out that it's $2,000. You've already booked the ticket, so you're out $2,000. What am I going to do, put her in jail? Of course not. That's why you don't deal with children when you're making a contract with
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Cooley, listen to me. This is all wrong, sir. You say to them, I agreed to pay one half of my daughter's expenses. And if I believe what you say it was based on me being employed. Well, that's not true. That's not true, sir. Your agreeing to pay for half of her airfare was not based upon your being employed, because you didn't have that conversation with your daughter. When you said to your daughter, I'll pay for half of your airfare, you didn't say to her, on condition that I'm still working, right?
Right.
Okay. I had no control over my going on disability, which cut my salary in third. So what? What's that their problem? That's your problem, not theirs. What's the nature of your disability?
Stress.
And you came here? I can see from this rambling letter that you are stressed, Mr. Cooley, so I won't proceed any further. You owe these people an additional $214, and that's giving you every possible benefit of the doubt, sir, that the only thing you agreed to was to pay for one half of her airfare. I mean, I think that if you wanted to be a good guy, you would say to them, listen, I don't want you to be out any money, and I don't want our daughters who were good friends to be estranged, so I'm going to make it my business to see to it that you get the extra $50 a month until it's all paid off. But from a legal perspective, I can't do that. I can, however, find that you agreed to pay for half the airfare. You have already given them $150, leaving a balance of $214. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I don't know if it was a once-in-a-lifetime trip. It's not like she's not going to be able to go anywhere else.
Brittany's dad has a problem with this now, and so she's not really able to come over to our house.
We don't really hang out that much anymore.
I think she'd be over a lot more this summer if this wasn't going on.
We'll still be friends.
I hope that would happen.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter, Fleischer versus McWhorter. Step forward, please.
Harriet Fleischer is suing her former tenant, Robert McWhorter, for rent and for running up her phone bill with sex calls.
Miss Fleischer, do you live in a private house or an apartment?
Private house.
How long have you lived there?
18 and a half years.
Who do you live with?
Currently I have one tenant.
What kind of work do you do, Miss Fleischer?
I'm a computer consultant.
How long have you been doing that kind of work?
Far too long. 9.5, 10 years.
This is your complaint. You rented a room to Mr. McWhorter, who was a friend of yours and going through some difficult times. You said that you would allow him to come and stay in your home, $100 a week, and you claim he left owing you some rent.
That's
which
correct.
is really not what you're complaining about, because he acknowledges that he owes a couple of $100 in rent. You claim that he made over $2,000 in 1-900 sex calls on your phone.
That's correct.
Mr. McWhorter said, I didn't do that. When were you living with Miss Fleischer, Mr. McWhorter?
Approximately right before Thanksgiving till the 23rd of December.
So maybe November the 20th?
Yeah, it was a Saturday when I moved in.
To
So
December what?
23rd.
You have a copy of your phone bill?
I do. I have a
I'd
copy.
like to take a look at it, please.
I had spoke to Mrs. Fleischer when I returned from my trip, and she verbally told me over the phone, I took her word for it, I never physically saw the bills myself, that it was between $900 and $1,000.
Look at me! What difference does it make how it was 900 and 1,000? I read your answer, Mr. McWhorter. Your answer says, I didn't make those calls and I don't know who did. So is now what you're telling me, sir, that you did make these calls, you just didn't know the extent of the bill. Is that what you're telling me?
That's correct.
All right, well, that's a little different from your answer. I know that sometimes I can be a little intimidating. That's a very good thing. So I don't have to go through these bills and humiliate you to see how long you stood on the line with these people, probably many of whom are guys talking and making out that they're women. Go find a nice girl, Mr. McWhorter. Get your own phone.
May I interject here, Your Honor?
Oh, if you have to.
Robert told me that he had his own phone. When we made arrangements for his moving in.
Miss Fleischer, doesn't make any difference.
Okay.
His story now, after he took a look at this kind face of mine, was, I acknowledge I made the phone calls, that I was stupid, right?
Very.
I was unthinking, right? Right? I'm dying to pay you and get out of here because I'm humiliated. And don't humiliate me anymore.
Yes, Your Honor.
Perfect. They could all be so easy.
Here are guys pretending to be women?
Yeah, I saw that in a movie once. You know, there were guys that just raise their voice and they sit there and they make other people feel foolish. It was in some Jack Lemmon movie or something. Remember Jack Lemmon?
Remember Jack Lemmon?
Most people don't remember Jack Lemmon. I remember Jack Lemmon.
May I say something, Your Honor?
What?
I have explained to Mrs. Fleischer that I'm an alcoholic, and I did have gone through several blackout stages. That's why. No, I'm putting it on the table.
Listen, I gotcha. I understand.
And this is part of my recovery, is to make amends for whatever damages I have done.
So why did you
in
have
the
to
past.
come here? Why couldn't you tell her that outside?
I attempted to. I didn't know that I was even actually have been taken to court until.
Well, where did you think you were going? To Never Never Land today?
No.
How much do you owe for rent?
I believe it would be between $100 and $200.
He left owing $200 in rent.
Okay.
On a week-to-week, there's a 1 week, as I understand it, a 1 week.
There's a 1 week nothing. Don't go crazy.
Okay.
He owes you $2,652.
Okay.
You've taken care of this before you came to court, sir. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
Good.
Your
Thank
Honor?
you very much. That's it.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Yeah, this is case number 100 on the calendar in the matter of Two versus Meyer. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat.
Miss Two, you provided daycare for Miss Myers'
Yes,
baby,
ma'am.
child. toddler?
Yes, 4 years old at the time.
And it is your claim that she owes you some money. She owes you some money for daycare that you actually provided.
Right.
And then punitive damages because you claim that she defamed you. When, after you sued her for the money that she owed you in small claims court, she called the state and reported that your daycare facility was substandard.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what the case is about. And Ms. Meyer says she had every right to call the state with regard to the unsanitary and unsafe conditions in your house, because that's why she removed her child from your daycare facility, and she doesn't owe you anything.
Yes.
When did you bring your 4-year-old to Miss Chu to babysit?
January 17th.
Of
2005, yes, ma'am.
And how did you find her?
A co-worker of mine had her child in her care.
And she was satisfied?
Well, she worked late hours and she didn't have no other choice, ma'am.
Well, you wouldn't have put your child in a daycare facility unless you said to this co-worker of yours, are you satisfied?
Quite honestly, I was desperate to find a daycare. I just started at my job in the beginning of December, and I needed to have daycare. Since I just started, I was not financially free to pay $450 up front for other daycares.
So?
So I talked to her, and she said, well, go ahead and try it. Mrs. Chu talked to me. She said, right now I'm kind of full. I have too many children, but it's okay. I can take him. It's okay. I got myself in trouble before.
How many children did she have at the time?
I'm not sure. Like
You
I said,
didn't ask?
I wasn't in the daycare facility.
What do you mean you weren't in the facility?
We just kind of met at a stable and talked about stuff like this.
You met where?
At a stable. I was going to buy her horse. That's how we met initially.
I thought you met initially through a coworker.
Yes, ma'am. The co-worker has a horse, Miss Chu has a horse, and I wanted to purchase a horse. Her
You
horse
wanted
was
to
for
buy
sale.
a horse?
Yes, ma'am.
You didn't have $450 to pay up front for a daycare and you wanted to buy a horse?
Yes, ma'am.
Explain that to me.
I was looking into buying a horse. But
For what?
To ride, ma'am.
Keep going.
Like I said, I went to look for a daycare.
Now, Fred, last time you spoke to me, you were looking for a horse.
Yes, ma'am.
And you met her at a stable. And you hadn't been to the daycare facility yet. Stop
No,
playing
ma'am.
around with your hair.
I called her on a Saturday. I said, I know you have a daycare. Is it possible for Jason to attend your daycare? She said, come on by on Monday. I went there, dropped him off.
Who would babysat for your son when you started working?
His godmother.
Well, what happened to her babysitting?
She had another job coming up that she was working, and she said she can't do it no more.
So you found her and you dropped him off without ever having seen the inside of the facility?
Yes, ma'am.
You have a husband?
Yes, ma'am.
What does he do for a living?
He's working in retail.
Did you end up buying her horse?
No, ma'am.
You have a horse?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you buy it?
Late February.
How much did you pay for it?
$600.
Where do you keep it?
Sally Hill.
At a stable?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much do you pay to board the horse at the stable?
$225.
A month?
Yes, ma'am.
You got your priorities a little bit backwards, Miss Mayer. You got your priorities backwards. Before you take a horse, you find an appropriate daycare for your child. Not one where you don't have to pay up front. Because according to the figures that you just gave me, you had $600 to buy a horse and $225 to board the horse, and you didn't have $450 to pay for what you might consider an appropriate daycare up front. You have other children?
Yes, ma'am.
How many?
2.
How old are they?
15 and 10.
So you got a lot of extra money. Must have a lot of extra money if you have a horse. Oy. Now, I'm not getting into how many children you're licensed for. I'm not getting into any of that. Just tell me, how long have you been a daycare provider?
7 years.
When did she first bring her son into your daycare?
In January.
And how long did you take care of him?
She had him out for a week and Good Friday, and then she brought him back, and it was April 4th, and he was in my home April 4th and April 5th. And on April 5th, that was the last day that she brought him. So,
how much did she owe you when she took her son out on the 5th?
She owed me for the 28th week, and then she also owed me for that week that he was in my care, but she took him out.
Okay, let me see the contract that you signed. And it's $85 a week.
Yes, ma'am.
So she owes you, according to you, for 2 weeks.
She owes me for 2 weeks and then a 2 weeks notice, which is also in the contract because she quit without any kind of notice to me. She sent me a letter on 4/6 by certified mail saying, thank you for your services. Basically, I don't need you anymore.
Can I see the letter she
Sure.
sent?
And then I returned with another letter to her explaining what I was expecting of her at that time. And in all honesty, Judge, I wasn't going to do another thing with her because when you're a daycare, you are...
Right. I got it. But then she went and filed a complaint.
Right. And I've been in business a long time, and I am inspected by the state and the health department 6 months every year, and they have never had a problem with my home.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She was with me 5 months, or 4 months after that.
No, she wasn't.
Well...
Listen to me.
Okay.
Don't be a fast talker. I don't like fast talkers.
And later today...
How old are you, Mr. England?
I'll be 48 in 2 weeks.
And how old are you, Miss Murray?
I'm 25.
Okay.
You got to find friends your own age.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Child care provider June 2 says ex-client Pat Meyer owes for daycare fees and defamation of character as a result of filing false charges with the state. Pat claims June's parrot bit her son.
Go ahead.
Okay, the reason why we pulled Jason out of her care was because her macaw parrot bit Jason. He had the chance to walk across the dining room table, walk up his arm, and bite him because he wouldn't let go of his pretzel. I've got the pictures for it.
Okay.
And another child also bit him in the arm, and we just had enough.
When was the parrot bite?
6 months prior.
Just a second.
Oh.
When was the parrot bite?
It happened in March.
And what about the bite from the child?
The bite happened on the 5th of April. That's where we pulled him out.
Tell me about the bite.
The bite from the child?
Yes.
Okay. Well, and let me just notate, the bite from the bird was not a bite, and he was not on my dining room table.
I don't care where he was. Shouldn't have been around children.
But
shouldn't have been around children.
Okay, well, I'll agree with that.
Good.
Okay. As far as the bite from the child...
But that didn't precipitate her removing the child from your
care.
care.
She was with me 5 months, or 4 months after that.
No, she wasn't.
Well...
Listen to me.
Okay.
Don't be a fast talker. I don't like fast talkers. Child started with you in January, February, and March.
Mm-hmm.
That's 3 months.
Correct.
So don't say it was 6 months before, because 6 months the child wasn't in your care.
That's true, but...
Okay. But she still brought the child back after the incident with the bird, but did not want to return with the child almost immediately after the bite.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'll explain that, too.
Go ahead.
Okay. JJ was in my home, and that is why I brought my daughter today, because she's a witness to his behavior. And I have a little boy who is hearing impaired. And when the little boy came into the house that day, JJ immediately knocked him down. I mean, just pushed him down for no reason. I have basically 2 rooms, and each go into each other. And the next thing I know, the little boy who is hearing impaired comes running out of that room again because JJ pushed him down again. She didn't also tell you the story that her child punched that little boy in the face.
That day, on the 4th.
Yes, 5th.
On the 5th, the little boy retaliated by biting him.
Yes, ma'am. That's exactly what happened.
Where were you?
I was standing right there. And next thing I know, her son punches, and he grabs his arm and bites him that quick. I mean, it happens so very quick.
Okay, fine. Now, mother, she's upset. Child was bitten by another child. Pulls the child out. Fine. You called the authorities? You called the authorities?
Yes, ma'am.
When?
I don't remember. I really don't. Maybe 2 weeks afterwards.
Why?
Because I don't feel that she's taken the care that she should by the daycare that she has for the children.
Well, why didn't you call the authorities the next day?
I took the day off Wednesday to find a new daycare, and I was...
That doesn't answer my question.
I just didn't have the time.
Well, what inspired you to call 2 weeks later? When did you receive the small claims summons that she filed against you? All that's documented, so
yes,
you might as well...
I don't know the date.
But the phone call that you made to the authorities was after that?
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Yes.
Now I'd like to see the report from the authorities when they came to do the inspection.
The first one's the dog catcher report, and the second one is the health inspector.
Who's taking care of your son now?
He's at home with his siblings and Mrs. Oliver again.
What did you do between the 6th of April and the 27th of May?
Oh, I'm sorry. He was in koala daycare.
How much did they charge you?
$95 a week.
And if you were unhappy with this Tuesday daycare, you could have put him in for an extra $10 a week to this other daycare.
I wasn't aware of that daycare at that time.
You should have been. If you spent a little more time choosing an appropriate daycare rather than shopping around for a horse, you could have been aware of the best daycare in your vicinity. I have, very little patience for somebody who spends any extra time on anything else when they have 3 children looking for quality daycare, which should be your first priority. First, not third, not second.
At that time, I was thinking I was doing the best I could by giving him
You don't
a
tell
home
me the
daycare.
best you could. The best you could is, you just told me that everybody else wanted up front $450, and she didn't, so you chose her. And yet at the same time, you were looking for a horse, and you bought a horse for $600.
Yes, ma'am.
Same month.
No, ma'am, it was the end of February.
A month later.
Yes, ma'am.
She owes you $340 for the daycare.
Yes, ma'am.
She also owes you $300 because I believe she filed this in retaliation and nothing more for your filing a small claim summons against her. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $600. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
When I turned around to put his jacket on, I noticed the injury on his neck, and I asked her what happened. And next thing, she pulls out this huge bird that's almost taller than my child.
My parrot is not as big as her child. And not only that, I've had kids that I've had since they were 5 months old and still have, and they're 4 years old.
Obviously, I made a mistake, and I will never do that again.
Truth does tell. She'd rather spend money on her horse than her child.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of English versus Murray. Step forward, please.
Bartender Dana English is suing his former friend, 25-year-old bartender Lara Murray, for a series of unpaid loans. Dana claims Lara used him.
Mr. English, you claim a series of loans to the defendant who was a friend of yours.
Yes.
Ms. Murray says that you were a kind friend. You gave her money. That's exactly what you did. You gave her money, and everything that you gave her were gifts. There was never any intention for her to repay those gifts, and it only became a problem when she rebuffed your romantic intentions.
No.
Okay. How old are you, Mr. English?
I'll be 48 in 2 weeks.
And how old are you, Miss Murray?
I'm 25.
Okay.
You got to find friends your own age, Mr. English. Then this sort of thing doesn't happen. According to what I read in your complaint, you hired Miss Murray to work as a hostess in a restaurant that you manage.
She was hired at the restaurant I worked at, yes.
When?
October.
Of what year?
2003.
When was the first loan you made her?
The insurance payment of October of 04.
How much?
$120.
And what was the arrangement, according to you, for repayment of that loan?
Lara said she would repay me the money because she didn't have it. She wasn't working that much.
So she said eventually she'll pay
Yes.
you back. When was the next loan?
It was for December, also a car insurance payment of $120.
December of 2004?
Yes.
Between October and December, had she paid you any money back of the first loan?
No.
When was the next loan?
The next loan was a car company called about the loan for her car. They didn't say it was her car. It was a $300 payment that I made, put the account number on it, and it was for her car, not mine. When I told Lara about this, she said she would repay me the $300.
So you made a car payment and they put it in the wrong account?
Yes. It
Oh.
had her account number on it, not mine, on the check.
How did you have her account number?
Because I said the loan company called me and told me she was behind on her
Why would they
car
call you?
payment. Because I had co-signed the loan.
Oh, just when did you co-sign the loan, sir?
That would be in September of 2004. That was the second car I co-signed for her.
When was the first car that you co-signed for her?
May of 2003.
May I say something?
Not yet.
Okay.
What other monies did you loan to her, sir?
Lara came to live with me towards the end of January, and she needed clothes for work. We went out shopping, and I spent $118 on clothes for her to go to work.
Between October of 2004, when you gave her the first loan, and January of 2005, when you loaned her money to buy clothes, when she came to live with you, had she paid you back any of the original $120?
No, ma'am.
You get where I'm going, Mr. English?
I was a very good friend, and I got used.
Fine. So what are you doing in court?
Lara told me she'd pay me back. She just then said, I called her, she called me one night and said, sue me, so I sued her.
Now I'll hear you.
Well, I started working at the restaurant in October of 2002. So that's when I met him, and I've been friends with him ever since. I got my car in May of 2003, and I was short some money, and he said that if I needed it, that he could help me out. Anytime he'd buy me Christmas presents, birthday presents.
He's not talking about
cards.
Christmas or birthday presents, Miss Murray.
Oh, I know.
He's talking about cash.
Yeah. Anytime I needed help, that I was saying that I needed help with my family, he was always there. He was always calling me, coming over, helping take my aunt to the grocery store. He doesn't have any other friends. I have a lot of friends, and when I started hanging out with my other friends more and not hanging out with him, his feelings got hurt, and then that's when he would start saying, well, I want this back, or I want to hang out with you at least one day a week. Then it started getting weird, and I started pulling back because I looked to him like a father figure. He is. He's like a father figure.
Why did you move into his house in January?
I only stayed. I was fighting with my family. I didn't move in. I was only there a couple days.
She was there for approximately 4 to 5 weeks.
No, I don't think
Off and on, yes.
Off and on.
But she was there.
Not straight.
No.
She went out and would stay away for days at a time and then come back.
Right.
Mr. English, you play around with a baby. This is you get babyish behavior.
Mm. Well, when she said she's going to repay me, I expect her to be repaid.
Well, Mr. English, I have to determine whether you had a legitimate expectation of being repaid. And when somebody borrows money in October and they don't pay you back, you don't lend them more money in December, and more, I'm speaking, and more money in January. You don't do that because then you don't have an expectation of being paid back. Eventually she'll pay you back if you live that long. Not from this court. You gotta learn, wisen up. She's a baby. She's still out there, you know, growing up. You're all grown up. Fortunately, the whole business cost you $797?
Yes, ma'am.
That's what you say, $797. It was a cheap lesson. Is she making car payments?
No.
What happened to the car?
The car was repoed. It's being auctioned off today to make up the money that she owes on the car loans and the car being towed. She totaled the car. She wrecked both cars.
Find a nice contemporary friend. Thank you very much. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Your Honor, this is case number 118 on the calendar, the matter of Sear versus Zanger. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Miss Sear, you and Mr. Zanger are neighbors.
Yes, we are.
But I gather the properties are spread out.
They're very far apart.
How many acres do you have?
I have 6.5.
And Mr. Zanger, how many acres do you have property?
Just short of 6.
This is your complaint, that Mr. Zanger keeps peacocks, and he also has dogs.
Yes.
You claim that his peacocks got out of his property and came onto your property and ate your screens. That his dogs attacked your dogs. You have vet bills that you want him to pay for. And that when you complained, he sent out a letter to neighbors that really vilified you and caused you a substantial amount of hardship. And you want to be compensated for that as well. Mr. Zanger says the screens, really no big deal. That his dogs are territorial, and as far as the letter is concerned, he never meant the letter to cause you any embarrassment or stress. He was really trying to be neighborly. That's your defense.
Exactly.
How long have you been neighbors?
It'll be 3 years in July.
Do you have pictures of your peacocks, Mr. Zanger?
I do.
May I see them, please?
They're so pretty.
How long have you had these birds?
About 4 years, I would say.
Do you keep them contained in any way?
Not at all.
Okay. So you understand if you don't keep them contained in any way, you are responsible for any damage that they cause.
Yes.
Good. So tell me about the damage that the peacocks caused, Miss Sear.
We have a 3-story house. They've gotten up there and ate all 5 of the screens on our 3rd story.
Can I see the pictures, please? They certainly are beautiful
Here,
birds.
they're 8 all the way
Thank
up
you.
to here.
Beautiful. Where did you get them?
In New York.
How many do you have?
Right now, only 2. The others were eaten by the mountain lions. And may I just add, at this point, I have them as security against rattlesnakes.
Well, that's nice, but they eat her screens.
That was none of my desire.
I understand that,
or
but
my
may not be your
doing.
desire, but they're annoying. This is the damage they caused.
May I address you in that point? This happened actually 3 years ago. I came back from New York where I spent my summers on my island. And then I was told by one of the neighbors that Zach said his father had shot at the peacocks on the roof or above. I went up to the Sear residence. I introduced myself. They were new neighbors. And I met Mr. Sear, and I asked him if he did actually take aim at the peacocks. And he said, yes, he shot above them because they were on a roof. I said, okay, why don't you use a water hose? Water does really deter almost all animals.
Yeah.
And eventually Mrs. Sear came out, and she said, you know, they ate our screens, and I did not see them.
Okay, well, somebody wasn't watching the store. How much is it going to cost you to replace the screens?
The screens, I found a lower estimate for $85.79.
$85.79, cheap enough, taking care of the screens. Let's get to the problem with the dogs.
My son and his 9-year-old friend, my son was 11. They were walking.
Were you there?
I was at the house, no.
You the son?
Yeah.
Step up. Tell me your name.
Zachary Sear.
All right, Zachary. When were you walking your dogs that you had a problem with Mr. Zanger's dogs?
About April 26th.
How many dogs were you walking?
I was only walking 2.
What kinds of dogs were you walking?
German Shepherd and Lab.
Mixed.
Were you walking them on leashes?
No. I was leading them with my hand.
And where were you walking them?
I was walking them down the road. We have like a halfway where it splits. And I go from there back and just check out the neighborhoods.
Okay. Tell me what happened, Zachary.
Okay, I was walking down and I see 3 dogs coming down. A St. Bernard and 2 looks like Black Labs and Rottweiler mixed. And the St. Bernard was okay. It just stayed away, but then...
Yeah, they're big and goofy and fun.
Yeah.
The St. Bernard's very sweet.
We have one in our family.
They are very sweet.
I know.
And then those 2 Rottweiler and Lab mixes, they were all sniffing, and then one started to bite the older dog.
Whose older dog?
Our older dog. They just started to fight and everything, and I was getting freaked out, so I tried to help. And then they went to go attack the younger dog, which is our dog, but that dog just ran away. Then they started attacking my dog's legs, and they started pouncing on her chest and everything, and she had a big, like, hump or something on her side of her ribs. And then my mom came back up, and that's when we got contact with Mr. Zanger.
What did Mr. Zanger say to you, Miss Sear?
Well, I heard the boys screaming, so I got in my truck and I drove down. I met with the boys, so I put the boys and the dog in my truck, and as I came, he came down in his silver car, and I pulled up next to him, and I said, "Do you see what happened?" And he says, "Yes." He goes, "My dogs are territorial." He says, "Anything that walks over here, they think that they own the road." I said, "If your dogs are dangerous, you need to take care of your animals." My dog never left my son's side as they were pouncing him and everything else. She's not aggressive.
Okay, Mr. Zanger.
Thank you. I would like to say the dogs have absolutely no Rottweiler in them. Both of them are black, as you see. Both of them are female and spayed.
Good. That's very nice. They got off your property. Did you say to Miss Sear when she called you that my dogs are territorial?
I did say so, yes. You see, when we moved there, we saw the area is so rural, and I felt we have our dogs there also to keep the rattlesnakes away. I had to kill rattlesnakes right in front of my house, and I have a 6-year-old granddaughter, and I want her to be
Mr.
safe.
Zanger, my dear, you choose to live there.
Yes.
If you choose to live there, you have to have whatever protection you need for your 6-year-old granddaughter.
That's...
If you choose to have your 6-year-old granddaughter live in an area where she's playing in the front yard, but for your dogs and your peacocks, there are going to be rattlesnakes. That's your choice. You don't have the right to have dogs who've decided that their territory goes beyond the boundary of your deed. And when you do, you are responsible for the damage that they cause. So now I will see the letter.
And then he issued out a letter to all of my neighbors in May stating that when I brought him my vet bill, I knocked on the door, Mr. Zanger walked out, shut the door behind him, and I said, "The other day when your dogs attacked my dog, here's my vet bill." He took it, he looked at it, and he goes, "So what? Good." He goes, "Get off my property." I said, "You're responsible for what happens. He goes, get off my property right now. And I said, it's very sad because I'm going to call animal control and it'll probably end up with your animals being destroyed. I did say that. I never said I was going to shoot them. His 6-year-old granddaughter was never there. He sent that out to my neighbors.
Can I read the letter, please?
Certainly.
Are you employed, sir?
No, I'm retired.
You got a lot of time on your hands. And anybody receiving this letter, Miss Sear, would understand that this is the musing of somebody who has a lot of time on their hands. It's not the kind of letter that you sue over. He's not only complaining about you, he's complaining about other people. He talks about other instances that happened in 1998 with his dogs. He talks about stolen car parts, which he doesn't attribute to you. It is the musings and meanderings of somebody who had nothing else to do. You don't get compensated for this. You do, however, get compensated for the injuries to your dogs and for the screens that his peacocks damaged. Those two amounts together come to $477.63. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think it was fair. The only reason I brought the letter in was to prove that, he was distributing lies to all my neighbors, but I think it was very fair.
I do applaud Judge Judy for whatever she does and how she does it, and I abide by her decision.
He's got too much time on his hands.
Let bygones be bygones, and let's work together to a better neighborhood.
All parties in the matter of Feldman versus Martinez, step forward.
23-year-old college student Stephanie Feldman is suing her ex-best friend, 24-year-old Emily Martinez, for vandalizing the inside of her home with pink paint and rotting meat.
Ms. Feldman, the defendant moved into a home that you share with your father, according to your complaint, and you had an argument. After a period of time, she moved out, and it is your claim that she vandalized the house. You want her to pay for the damage that she did in the house. Ms. Martinez said she did not vandalize the house, and she is counterclaiming. She said she wants damages because during the course of this argument, you assaulted her, right?
Yes.
When did you move in and why, Ms. Martinez?
I was persuaded by Stephanie to...
No, listen. When did you move in?
In September of '04.
Who did you move in with?
With my son's father, my fiancé at the time.
And what about your son?
He was with me as well.
What, did you have a room or an apartment?
It was a room.
Okay. When did you start to pay rent?
Immediately.
How much did you pay?
I paid $400 a month.
So far, is that right?
No.
No. When did she move in?
She moved in around September, like she said, but actually the first month that she moved in with Hugo, I didn't charge her. Because I'm the godmother of her son, I said, I'll do you the favor and you don't have to pay for the first month. And she gets public assistance, and I have a letter here that I was getting $141.50 twice a month for Emily staying there.
Were you getting welfare in September of 2004?
No. When I moved in with her, I moved in with my fiancé. We separated, and that's when I was out of work and I applied for public assistance.
Were they paying the rent?
Not initially. Initially,
when
we were
did they
paying.
start paying the rent?
Around November.
All right, good. So they paid the rent, $283.
I paid the difference.
Show me proof.
I don't have proof because we were best
Did she pay any
friends.
additional
No.
rent? She says you didn't give her additional money and that all she got for the room was $283 that she got from public assistance.
Yes.
Okay, keep going. What was the argument about and when did it occur?
Okay, it all started when she was no longer with Hugo. Hugo decided that he was going to move out. Her and Hugo broke up. She started dating this other guy named Fred, okay? My nephew let Hugo in the house while she was in the room with Fred. A whole thing started where Fred tried to stab Hugo, and Hugo had to jump out of the window. So I told her after that argument that, this has to stop. The police came. I said, I don't want this drama in my house.
Right. You're absolutely right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Let me tell you why. I'm really comfortable.
How so?
If you're quiet, I'm going to explain it to you. And I want you to understand there's only one attitude in this room.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Stephanie Feldman says her ex-best friend, Emily Martinez, vandalized the inside of her home. Emily is countersuing for an assault and the return of her security deposit.
Okay, when did she finally move out?
April 7th, that was the 30-day. The first argument was on March 7th when I was speaking to my nephew about not shoveling, that's his responsibility to do. And she got into the argument. I said, Emily, please mind your business. And she wouldn't. So that's when I had asked her to leave. I said, if you're going to get into my family business...
That's when she claims you slapped her. Did you slap her?
No.
What'd
She
you
went
do?
to go hit me on the entrance door by her room, and I moved her hand out of the way out of self-defense. I'm going to see somebody hitting me and stand there.
Okay. Were you injured?
Yes.
Well, tell me about the injury.
Okay, she was in a violent rage. She is very violent. She has violent outbreaks towards her
You shouldn't have moved
father.
in with her if she was violent.
Well, I didn't realize that. You don't know these things till you move in with people. You never know someone till you live with them.
Show me pictures of your injuries.
I don't have any
Do
pictures
you have a police
of
report about your injuries?
No, I don't.
All right. Could you get to the vandalism of the property, please? She moved out April 7th.
Yes. I was at work because I'm a supervisor in the after school. My father and my nephew were home.
Father?
Yes.
Could you step up, please? What is your last name, sir?
Feldman.
Mr. Feldman, were you home on or about the 7th of April when Miss Martinez came in to get the remainder of her things?
Yes.
Tell me what happened.
She took her stuff and she left.
And then what happened?
My grandson and I left, and when we came back, the back room was destroyed.
You have photographs?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I see it, please?
And there's also photographs on the back as well. And that also has photographs of the meat that was planted in my apartment.
What is this pink stuff that was spilled all over the place?
That was the pink paint that she used. As you could see, it's the same color of the room. That pink paint was in Emily's possession, was never in my possession.
You also said that somebody put stuffed food around the house.
Yes. That day, when I walked in, I noticed a foul odor in my bedroom. And I couldn't figure out what it was, but I had people over, so I wasn't going to start searching all over. And the next day, I found chopped meat in my heater system, fish under my bed. That's what you see in the pictures. Chopped meat and pig's legs all over the house, behind my fridge, behind my bed wall. And
Anybody else have access to the house?
only the people that live with me, which is my dad, my nephew, and Millie, who is my godmother.
Go ahead.
Okay. She has an open house. She has a party house.
First, let's go with the pink paint.
Okay. I mean, that was planted after I left. This is all a retaliation because I called the police on her because she attacked me. And she told me I had to have my stuff out by a certain day. I removed it.
Wait a second. Wait. She didn't attack you. You said she slapped you.
She was attacking me.
You said she slapped you, is what you said.
That's all she got in because I was...
Listen to me. You still vandalized the house.
That's
allegedly.
allegedly.
What's the new boyfriend's name?
Fred.
Fred. You or Fred.
Allegedly.
No, I have to make a decision whether that happened.
How is the evidence? Where's the evidence that I did that? She has an open house. Her door's never locked. There's guys coming in and out of her apartment all hours of
Miss
the night.
Martinez, let me tell you why. I'm really comfortable, really comfortable finding that you vandalized the house.
How so?
If you're quiet, I'm going to explain it to you. And I want you to understand there's only one attitude in this room.
I'm not trying to have an attitude.
Good.
I just don't like being accused.
So I'm going to explain it to you because how long have you lived in this house?
That's been in my family for 50 years. I've lived there all my life.
Shh. Listen to me. Listen to me. How many times have you found chopped meat in the heater system?
Not at all.
Never?
No.
Mr. Feldman, how many times have you found chopped meat in the heating system in the last 50 years?
Never.
How many times have you found paint spilled on the floor?
Never.
In 50 years?
Never.
So the only time...
police are in her house every
listen
week.
to me. I'm speaking now. You asked me for a reason. I'm giving you the
Okay.
reason. I'm being nice to you. The world revolves around common sense.
Absolutely.
If it doesn't make sense, it's not true. If it makes sense, then more often than not, it's true. Now, she's had, according to you, an open house. Lots of people come in and out of the house. Mr. Feldman has lived there for 50 years. I'm sure he's had lots of people in and out of the house. It is too coincidental, and it belies credulity, which means it just doesn't make sense, that in the last 50 years, the only time that they've had trouble with vandalism in their house to this extent, in a room where you and Fred and Hugo had been living, and the only time she had meat found in the heating system is the day you moved out.
This is a case of single white female. She wants to be me. The problem was
Listen
that
to me,
I had
sweetheart.
a boyfriend, and she
Listen-
wanted me to be hanging out with
listen
her
to
every
me.
day. I had to be by her side every day.
She doesn't want to be you. Listen to me.
She has a
Listen
serious
to me.
psychological problem, and this is a retaliation against me.
Then you should have a different place to live.
I do.
In any event, judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500, which is the cost of your cleanup, which is what you say. You should not have to clean up. I'm speaking. You won, so be quiet. You have a counterclaim for assault. I find that you weren't assaulted, so it's dismissed. Thank you very much. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step. Yes, case number 116 on the calendar in the matter of Burkhart versus Reed. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. And have a seat.
Mr. Burkhart, you and Miss Reed had a relationship and you have a child together. Is that right?
Yes, 5-year-old Michaela.
Your complaint alleges that you made 2 loans to Miss Reed over a year ago. And in addition to that, she took out a small amount of money, $100 and some odd from a bank account that she should not have, also over a year ago. So far correct?
So far correct.
That you did not pursue this matter during the past year because there were open criminal charges against you for assaulting Miss Reed. You wanted to wait until that case had been resolved before you pursued these loans.
Yes, ma'am.
You were, several weeks ago, convicted after a jury trial
Yes, ma'am.
of assaulting Miss Reed, and now that that has been resolved, you want your money.
Yes.
Miss Reed says that that money was given to her in lieu of child support, and you are currently thousands of dollars in arrears on your child support. One was for college tuition, $975, and one was for rent, $400 for rent. Is that right? Yes, Miss Reed. And that she did close out a bank account. The bank account was in her name. Yes. So she had the right to close it out. And you are still thousands of dollars in arrears in child support. That's your defense? Yes. When was the first alleged loan, Mr. Burkhart?
Back in March of '04.
What was it for?
She came to me and asked me for help. She was taking college courses, and as you know, when you go to college, if you're only taking a single course, you're not eligible for TAP or Pell. So she needed the money for the college course. And then a month later, she needed money for the rent, and I said, that's fine too. You know, I would help her out with that I would loan her the money for that.
And that's really what you're suing for, as far as the loans are concerned.
Well, yeah, and the 192, I was a trustee. See, I'm disabled, and we wanted to set up a bank account so our daughter Michaela could get the money. Then she found out that I had by accident, $18,000 of disability, a Social Security disability that I got put into that account by mistake because I was a trustee. They seen my name. So one day I get this call, she's crying about, oh, you got $18,000, why wasn't I given any of this? It was my disability, it had nothing to do with hers. As far as this money being towards support, if you look at the support...
Just a second.
Okay.
She took $192.
She closed the account out. That's what the balance was when she closed it.
And when was the last time you lived together?
It was around the year 2000. Because Michaela was born, and 6 months later she attacked me. I had just had my knee replaced, and I asked her to leave because we weren't getting along. She was getting too violent.
I didn't ask you to go into that. I'm really not interested. 2000.
Yeah.
And has your daughter remained in Miss Reed's custody since?
No.
She was in your custody or in somebody else's custody?
In my custody for 4 years. I had her from Sunday to Friday, and then most of the weekends that she would go out with other people.
Okay, and she would go with her mother?
For the weekend.
For the weekend?
Yes.
Now, was that pursuant to a court order?
No, that was just, she was working, I was disabled, so it was convenient. So for 4 years I did that.
Until when?
Until last year around, it was like June or July. She took me to court for support, and the judge said, I can't give you support. He's got her from Sunday to Friday.
June or July of last year, 2004?
Right. So when she
When
found
was this
out,
alleged assault? When was the assault?
that was over a year ago, about a year.
When?
That was around a little after March, a little after
March of 04?
04.
So right after these 2 loans or right before these 2 loans?
No, it was before. The assault was after the loans.
Assault was after the loans?
Right.
But up until June of 04, Michaela was with you?
Yes.
Even after the assault?
Yes. Until she found out she couldn't get support. And when she found out she couldn't get support, the judge said, no, he's with her. Within 10 days, she took my daughter, and I haven't had her back since.
When did the court enter an order of support, Mr. Burkhart?
Around September or October, then she was granted support because then she had my daughter.
May I see the order, please? As of April 2005, sir, the court found you in arrears of $2,116.
Right, and that was because I didn't bring proof of financial, because I'm disabled. I only get $1,300 a month. So they gave an as needs, and you're a family court judge. You know what an as needs is, right? When you don't provide financial
Was that
proof.
order ever modified?
We're going back on the 17th of
My
June.
question is, was the order ever modified?
The original order was.
This order of arrears.
I don't know. All I can tell you is the original order was $61.
The net due, as of this month,
right,
is $3,255.48.
Right. That will be corrected. As soon
I don't know if it's going to be corrected or not. I have no idea if it's going to be corrected, but right now that's what you owe.
Right.
Well, if that's what you owe, sir, why do you think that I would even entertain a case against her for $1,200?
First of all, she lied to you about this being part of child support. How could I loan her something a year and a half ago or a year ago and base it on child support when there was no child support in effect at that time? So that tells you she's lying.
No, just a second.
Yeah.
No, she's not lying, Mr. Burkhart.
Yes, she is.
What? I get the last word.
Okay.
What she said was you were not paying her child support. She didn't say there was a child support order in effect a year and a half ago. She said you were not paying her child support.
But I was giving her money. There's other money that I'd given her.
What's the nature of your current disability?
My knee and my back.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a special ed teacher.
You have other children?
I have a 17-year-old.
Does that child receive any disability from your Social Security disability?
They get $75 each.
What amount is the order of support, by the way?
I think it's $289 a month, which on a $1,300 income is not quite feasible.
There is work, sir, that you could do that doesn't involve you moving around.
And what might that be?
Well, let me ask you this question, Mr. Burkhart. How did you come to California?
On a plane.
And you sat for 5 hours?
Well, yeah, I got up, walked around.
Same way you could sit in your house and do telemarketing.
I probably could.
You can do a lot of things sitting at a desk that don't
Unfortunately,
require...
with the legal matters.
I'm speaking,
okay,
sir.
Excuse me.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Somebody who can sit on a plane for 5.5 hours from New York to California can get a different kind of a job that doesn't require him using his knee.
And later today...
You only called her the B word, that's it? Well, is that a nice name, William?
Nope.
Why did you call her a nasty name?
The mother of his child, Starla Reed, owes for 2 unpaid loans. Starla claims Roland is a deadbeat dad.
How old are you, sir?
53.
53. Well, you have a 5-year-old daughter. You decided to make a child when you should have been having grandchildren. That's something that you do when you have children to support.
I have a 17-year-old, too.
Listen to me, sir.
All right.
That's something that you have to do. $289 a month support is not a lot of money. It's certainly not half a child's support.
When you're only getting $1,300, that's quite a bit.
That's why you have to get a job,
Unfortunately,
sir.
I'm not allowed to work because of the doctor.
No, you're not allowed to work, sir, because you're getting disability.
Right. Well, until it's done. When the doctor gives me an okay to go back to work, I'll go back to work.
And all I'm saying to you, sir, is that there are things that you can do that don't require you doing anything physical, and that sometimes you have to modify a course in life.
All right.
That's not a joke. I mean, you can either get this federal welfare for disability. There are people who are really legitimately disabled, who can't move, who really can't move. Somebody who can sit on a plane for 5.5 hours from New York to California to try a case can get a different kind of a job that doesn't require him using his knee. Do you understand what I'm saying? And $289 is not a lot of money. And if the reason you were watching your daughter for 4 years is because you weren't working, which is what you told me, right?
Yes.
I'm telling you that you should get a job.
Yes, I will.
Get a
as soon
job.
as I'm done.
Good. Good. And, sir, I'm going to dismiss your case without prejudice for the following reason. I am not doing a set-off with the money that you allegedly owe Miss Reed for child support. In the event that your arrears are modified to 0, you have leave to get back on the plane and come back from New York and seek this $1,200. However, if the court sees fit to leave the arrears intact, she doesn't owe you a dime. Thank you very much. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Well, the court says he has visitation with my daughter, but she can't spend the night there because his house is unstable for a child to be there.
Eventually, I'm probably going to go to jail because I'm not giving her anything.
They found drug paraphernalia in his house. They found rats in his house.
I have snorted coke for quite a few years. It's good enough for Sigmund Freud.
He is able to get money from the state of New York for his disability, so he's faking that he has one.
You got a mother and father that can't stand each other, and you got a 5-year-old that's in between, and that's the toughest thing that we have to watch out, that we don't hurt Michaela because we don't like each other.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Woodworth versus Rubio Robles. Step forward, please.
Tiffany Woodward is suing the parents of her son's friend, Reynaldo Rubio and Julia Robles, for the cost of the boy's glasses. Tiffany claims 11-year-old Ida Rubio smashed them.
Miss Woodworth, this is your son. He's 7.
Yes, it is.
And Miss Robles, Mr. Rubio, this is your daughter. She's 11.
Yes.
And according to your complaint, these 2 young children play with each other. And for the 3rd time, this little girl broke your son's eyeglasses.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you want Mr. Rubio and Miss Robles to pay for the glasses this
Yes.
time. Because you can't get him new glasses, your insurance doesn't cover the cost. All right. Why don't you stand up there next to your mom and dad? Tell me your name.
Ida.
You want to come up here and talk to me?
Sure.
Good.
Thank you.
Is this young man your friend?
Yeah. Yes.
Do you remember the last time his glasses got broken?
No.
Don't know anything about how his glasses got broken.
The first other 2 times, I didn't know, but this time, I didn't break them.
Well, what happened this time?
We were playing, and
Look at me.
We were playing, and he would call me names, and I would tell him names back. He pushed me, and so I pushed him back. He had hit the brick wall, and his glasses had fell. I think he stepped on them, or the lens popped out by himself, because I didn't step on them.
Okay. You can go back down.
Okay.
Okay, William. Hello.
Hi.
Is Ida your friend?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about how your glasses got broken.
Ida, she pushed me.
Ida pushed you.
Yeah.
Did you
Then-
call? Just a second.
Then, I pushed her back. Then she pushed me against the brick wall. Then they fell, and then she stomped on them.
Were you calling her any names?
I only called her the B word. That's it.
You only called her the B word, that's it? Well, is that a nice name, William?
Nope.
Why did you call her a nasty name?
Because she called me the F word.
Who called who a name first?
Ida. She called
Ida
me
called-
a name first.
So after Ida called you a name, and then you called her a name, who pushed who first?
Ida, she pushed me first.
And then you pushed her back?
Then she pushed me again. Then they fell off my face, and she stomped on them.
You've had a couple of pair of glasses break before, is that right, William?
It's not 3, it's 4. It's 4 times she did it.
How did she do it?
Because the last 3 times she punched me in the face and broke him in half. Then the last time she stomped on him.
But you keep playing with Ida. How come?
I don't know. We just keep on fighting them friends.
First you fight and then you're friends again?
Yeah, every time.
Why don't you go and sit down over there? The first couple of times that William told you that Ida had broken his glasses, did you call her parents?
I lived right next door to them. I spoke with them.
Did Mrs. Woodworth speak to you about what happened with Ida?
I don't even recall the first 2 times. I don't remember.
Well, then if she says it happened and you say you don't remember, then it happened.
Well, do you remember?
It never was brought up to my attention about breaking glasses.
What did you tell them?
Well, my husband and I had both asked you if you would speak to Ida, and you guys had spoke to her. You know, my husband and I understand kids will be kids, but after so many times, I can't afford to pay for them, and the insurance won't cover for them anymore.
I got it. Now, Ida, I'm going to see you back here again, right here. Ida, you know what my job is?
Yeah.
What do you think my job is?
Um,
Come on. You're 11 years old. You know, you're a big girl.
yeah, but I don't really.
Well, my job is to make sure that I find out what the truth is. That's my job. And I don't think that you've told me the whole truth, Ida. And I've been a judge a very long time. So when you come to court and Officer Bird says to you, pick up your hand and you swear to tell the truth, and you say yes, you have to tell the truth. Not stories that you've told your parents, not stories that you told anybody else, but when you're in court, you have to tell the truth. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Now, it's my job to figure out if people tell the truth. And I think he's telling me the truth. I think that you've broken his glasses a couple of times. Is there any reason why you did that? Look at me. Don't look over there. Look at me. Is there any reason why you broke his glasses a couple of times?
Yes, because he gets me mad. He'll call me names and stuff like that.
Well, he can call you names, and do you call him names?
Yes.
Does he break things of yours?
No.
Then why do you break his glasses? Because you get mad?
Well, he'd push me and I'd push him back, but they never broke. Because I never hit him in the face.
Did you ever take off his glasses and break them in two?
No. They could fall and the lint could pop out, or they can accidentally get stepped on if they fall.
They can accidentally get stepped on. They can also get stepped on purpose. You could accidentally step on them, right?
Right.
Go back to your parents. Mrs. Robles, your husband clearly doesn't recall being spoken to by Miss Woodworth about your daughter. You claim not to recall. So I credit her testimony that she did, in fact, speak to you in the past. And I believe that your daughter broke his glasses and stepped on them just as he said that he did. His testimony was direct and straightforward and honest, that they were calling each other names, they pushed each other. Well, that's possible, and once he gets pushed and she gets pushed, I don't have a problem with that, even though kids aren't supposed to touch each other. But I believe him when he says that once the glasses fell off, she stomped on them because she got mad. She's not telling me the truth. And she didn't tell you the truth if that's what she told you.
So the first two times you believe that she broke them in half?
I believe that she broke his glasses before.
Oh, okay.
And I believe that his mother spoke to you about it before. You may not remember.
I don't recall that.
The glasses are $160?
Yes, they are.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $160. I'd have a discussion with her. She's got to learn about truth-telling. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
हेलो गाइस, कैसे हैं आप सब? ठीक हैं? आज हमारे पास है बिल्ली जो कि किताब पढ़ रही है. इसमें हम कलर करेंगे और हमें बताइएगा कलर कैसा है. वीडियो अच्छी लगे तो लाइक करें और सब्सक्राइब करें. जी तो गाइज आज की हमारी ड्राइंग कंप्लीट हो गई है और देख के बताइएगा कि कलर कैसा लगा। अगर वीडियो अच्छी लगे तो चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कीजिएगा।